Hello everyone, Republic Jim here. I'm just out in the field on my property today doing some testing with version 2 of my DIY handcart. So I got my one handle there shaved down a bit so it's far more comfortable without the bark, and my other one replaced where it's relatively straight. Not a great handle, but it'll do for now. And as you can see, I've got my weight belt here that's hooked onto these two prussiks. That this rides against my hips to where that's where I'm exerting all the force. I just hold onto the handles to steer and stabilize it, but the actual pulling force comes from leaning into that belt. I am finding it'd be really handy to have some sort of loop there to hook it to me because it keeps wanting to slide down. So that's an improvement I need to make. These wheels here are far better than the old small ones I took off the self-propelled lawnmower, but I'm still finding that they're canting in just a little bit just because of the leverages there with the way they're mounted. So even with that heavier bracket, all the hardware wants to just kind of sag and pull the wheels in at the top. So I'm getting a little bit of rubbing against the ratchet straps where they connect on the sides there. One thing I am seeing is if I had wheels that were 2 or 3 inches taller, then they would pretty much clear that. So I don't know, I might have to shop around and eventually get some much taller mountain bike tires. These ones are pretty short. They're like 20 or 21 inches or something. So some adult size ones would make a difference. And then I probably wouldn't have the rubbing issues. I could have just gone wider on my axle there, but I didn't want to get this thing ridiculously wide. I still have to go through some halfway narrow places. But anyway, aside from that, it's working out pretty nice. Today I'm just getting over a nasty head cold and I didn't want to do anything too strenuous, but unfortunately had a few dozen eggs that spoiled just when we were dealing with all the chaos of my wife's hospitalization and stuff. We had some that were just sitting around that never got used and went bad, and I needed to get them out of here, so I'm going to go dispose of them on the property. But that would have been way too light, so just for a little bit of exercise and some ballast, I threw in this sandbag there that's somewhere around 80 to 90 pounds. And as long as I keep it somewhat near the axles there, it gives me good balance. I can just pick up with just one finger even, and it just pivots on that center of gravity there. So makes it easy to stabilize, and I just have to pull against that belt, and working pretty good. It was a little bit tough coming up the steeper parts on the hill, but all I have to do is turn sideways when I need to take a break so it's not pulling me backwards. And all in all, that went pretty well. I'll see how it goes heading back downhill. It might be trying to push and run over me, and if it gets too bad, I'll just turn around and walk down the hill with the cart in front of me with the belt against my back to put pressure against it and slow it down. But hopefully it won't come to that, but we will see. Anyway, I'm going to get back in there behind the belt and pull this thing over to where I need to go so I can get things dealt with before it gets too dark and ugly and rainy. And I need to get back to the house and get some other stuff done. But anyway, I will get back to you in just a bit here. Okay, I'm back and on the trail. You can probably hear that rubbing on the tires that I was talking about, but still pulls along here nicely. And obviously I can stabilize with just one hand as long as the belt is in place. In fact, I can somewhat even take hands off of the handle there as long as I have something to stabilize it and keep it from popping up. But just went past a spot over there where I intend to spend the night relatively soon in a primitive improvised tarp shelter. But yeah, I'm making good progress across the property, heading towards where I'm going to dispose of these things, and then I will head back. Just wanted to clarify for anybody that hasn't seen my previous handcart videos, which I will link to in the description. The whole idea with this handcart is a way to be able to transport stuff easily with human power when the ground is clear, but then still be easy to convert to a typical utility sled once we get snow. So basically I can undo that ratchet strap, unhook both ends, and just remove the entire axle and wheel assembly in one piece. And then I have 4 screws holding the handles on. I mean, 2 screws per handle. So those are very simple to undo as well. And while I assembled it with a battery-powered driver, of course, when I'm out in the field, I can still use just a simple screwdriver, multi-bit one, and just undo those screws and pull the handles off. And also, if anything goes wrong with one of the handles, I can easily just find another one of the appropriate length and diameter. I have downed tree limbs and slash piles everywhere on the property, so it's not too hard to improvise another handle if it becomes necessary. So yeah, in general, that's the idea, where I can use the one utility sled year-round just to make it easier to haul more gear around. And I don't have to have any sort of expensive mechanized equipment. Do it all with human power and get around in relatively narrow trails and such. It's not perfect for like a hiking trail up in the mountains, but for my property or any place where there's dirt roads and such, it really does work out nicely. And looks like I'm about here, so I'm going to park the cart here and get ready to dispose of these things. And of course my sandbag slid to the back of the cart again, so the center of balance is off and it wants to tilt up, so I'm just going to let it do that. And yep, there goes my container with the eggs, but no harm, no foul. So yeah, if I was actually carrying much cargo here, a real planned outing, I would secure my load and keep it from shifting around like that. I have my waterproof cargo bag that at least what I use for one, which is actually a artificial Christmas tree storage bag, but it's perfect size for fitting in this cart, and it's waterproof. And yeah, I tend to put my gear in there and just pack it in all around to where it can't shift much, and then put a nice bungee net over the top of it, and works great. So yeah, this thing Still obviously needs some tweaks. I need to get that issue with the wheels sorted out to where they're not rubbing as much, and make sure that I don't break any of the hardware from the forces being exerted on it. But yeah, all in all, I like version 2 of the cart much better than the original version. So now I'm just gonna get this disposed of and head back towards the house. So that's all for now, but look for me to do a overnight camp out using this handcart relatively soon, unless it happens to snow hard before then. And and then in that case I would just take the wheels off and use the sled instead. But either way, I'm planning on loading up a bunch of gear and doing a nice comfortable tarp shelter camp out. So yeah, check for that in the not too distant future. This has been Republic Jim. I'll talk to you later.